There's a quiet sickness spreading through the Heartland. It's not the kind that makes the nightly news. It's a slow decay you can see on dusty main streets and feel on forgotten county roads. This is a story about what's left behind when the jobs leave, hope drains away, and something else moves right in. This isn't a story from decades ago. It's happening right now. Methamphetamine use among young adults in the most rural parts of our country is nearly double the rate of those in big cities. As one local told us, it doesn't just take a little piece of you, it takes all of you. We're headed into a town that industry forgot and an epidemic consumed. We need to understand how we got here and meet the people fighting for what's left. This was supposed to be the American dream. A small town built on hard work where you knew your neighbors. Main Street was the artery of this place, and it was full of life. Now, many storefronts are boarded up, their windows like vacant eyes. The paint is peeling, the silence is heavy. And this isn't just one town. You can find this story all across the country. In these hollowed-out spaces, a different economy has taken root, an economy of despair, methamphetamine. It's been called the most American of drugs, tied to a desire to work harder, longer, and just push through the pain. But that promise is a lie. For decades, it's been tearing through rural communities with a vengeance. Consider this. Recent studies show that among people who use drugs in rural areas, about 4 out of 5 report using meth. It's a staggering figure that proves this crisis is far from over. But the problem is bigger than just one drug. It's a public health catastrophe hiding in plain sight. In rural towns, users often start younger and are more likely to inject, which dramatically increases the health risks. And now, the drug itself is changing. It's frequently contaminated with fentanyl, an opioid 50 to 100 times more powerful than heroin. This turns a stimulant addiction into a game of Russian roulette. People using both meth and opioids face the highest overdose risk of all. To understand why meth took such a powerful hold here, you have to understand what was lost first. We spoke with a man who has lived here his whole life, a former sheriff who watched this town's slow decline. I remember when that whistle at the plant blew. 3 times a day. You could set your watch by it. It meant a good paycheck, a pension, a future. My dad worked there. My uncles too. When it shut down, a part of this town just died. We lost thousands of good jobs. People who had pride in their work were suddenly left with nothing. And desperation. That's a powerful thing. It creates a vacuum. He's right. The story of meth in rural America is inseparable from economic collapse. All across the Heartland, towns that depended on a single industry, a factory, a meatpacking plant, a mine, were gutted when those jobs vanished. Poverty, unemployment, and isolation created the perfect breeding ground for addiction. When you take away a person's opportunity, they'll look for an escape. For some, meth became that escape. For others, it became a new line of work. The cost of this epidemic isn't just in dollars. It's measured in broken families, in children shuffled through the system, and in lives cut short. Parental substance use is a factor in a huge number of cases where kids have to be removed from their homes, straining already under-resourced child welfare systems. To understand that human toll, we met someone who lived it. She's in her late 30s, a mother of 2, and a recovering meth addict. I started using when I was 19. It wasn't for parties, it was functional. I was working 2 jobs just trying to make ends meet after the plant shut its doors. Meth gave me energy. It made me feel like I could keep up, but it's a trap. It starts by giving you something, and it ends by taking absolutely everything. Her story is one we heard over and over. The drug's initial promise quickly dissolves into a nightmare of paranoia, anxiety, and psychosis, symptoms that can be even more severe in rural users. You lose yourself. You don't sleep for days on end. You start seeing shadows, hearing things that just aren't there. Your entire world shrinks until it's only you and the drug. I lost my job. My kids had to go live with my mother. I ended up homeless, living in my car. I remember just sitting there one night completely broken and realizing the drug wasn't even getting me high anymore. It was just making everything worse. That was my bottom. Jessica's journey back from that bottom was anything but easy, and she's one of the lucky ones who found help. We'll hear how she fought to get clean in a moment. The stories of people like her are critical to understanding this crisis. If you believe these stories need to be told, please take a moment to subscribe. It helps us continue to bring this kind of reporting to light. For someone like Jessica, wanting to get clean was the first step. Finding help was the second. And in rural America, that can feel almost impossible. Addiction treatment centers are few and far between, often located in cities hundreds of miles away. For anyone without reliable transportation or money for gas, help might as well be on another planet. And even if you can get there, the care itself is limited. There's a critical shortage of addiction specialists and mental health professionals in rural America. I must have called a dozen places. Most had waiting lists that were months long. The others didn't take my insurance. It felt hopeless. You're in this moment where you're finally ready, you're begging for a lifeline, and the world just tells you, sorry, call back later. This is the brutal reality. In rural America, a huge number of people who try to get treatment for substance use simply can't get it. And in the tight-knit world of a small town, the fear of being judged can be a powerful silencer. The stigma keeps the sickness locked in the shadows. But even in the deepest shadows, you can find sparks of light. In a small, unassuming building just off Main Street, we found a group of people who refused to let their community die. It's not a fancy treatment center. It's a grassroots recovery group, run by volunteers out of a church basement. This is where people find a lifeline. We don't have a lot. We run on donations and whatever small grants we can scrape together. But what we do have is each other. We're a family here. These are our friends, our neighbors, our own kids. We're just not giving up on them. These small pockets of hope are fighting an incredible uphill battle. They're the unofficial, underfunded first responders in a national crisis. They offer a safe space, a sympathetic ear, and a connection to people who actually understand the fight. They're a living reminder that recovery is possible, that a life beyond addiction can exist. They saved my life. It wasn't some doctor in a white coat. It was a woman who used to be an addict herself. She just sat with me, she listened, and she didn't judge me. She gave me hope. I've been clean for 2 years now. I have my kids back. I'm working again. I still take it one day at a time, but for the first time in a long, long time, I have a future. Driving out of town, the same sights are there. The boarded up shops, the quiet streets. But you see them differently now. You see the ghosts of what this place lost. But you also see the fierce resilience of those who have stayed to fight. The meth epidemic in rural America was never just about a drug. It's about what happens after the economic collapse. It's about what happens in the face of deep despair. It's about a healthcare system that leaves its most vulnerable citizens behind. These towns aren't filled with bad people. They are filled with people who have been forgotten. There isn't an easy fix. Rebuilding these communities means more than just fighting addiction. It demands investment, opportunity, and a real reason for hope. It requires healing the deep economic wounds that allowed this crisis to take hold in the first place. The story of this town is a warning for what happens when we turn our backs on entire parts of the country. But in the quiet courage of people fighting for their lives, and in the tireless work of volunteers in a church basement, there's another message. Even in the face of decay, the human spirit refuses to stop rebuilding, reconnecting, and finding its way home.